gamers? Today I have another guide for you guys. This time it's going to be basically how to play on the new maps, which civs are good, what styles are good, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to try to give a more general advice per map on how to play it, but at the same time try to give like maybe the best civs in those maps and stuff like that. We've had DLC recently which changed a lot. In the game, Pro Scouts is nerfed, which is probably the biggest one. 2 new civs added. And other than that, it feels like the meta is kind of gone to before Pro Scout was a thing. And we're back into 2 town center. We're back into kind of just feudal aggression without Pro Scouting. And we're back into castle rushing. So with that being said, I'm going to be covering 1 versus 1 ladder map pool. So let's get into it, and then I'm going to show you the 3 new maps and talk a little bit more about them, just because, well, they're new and there's some interesting things about them. Number 1, let's do Dry Arabia. This is the most standard and most basic map. Dry Arabia is a map where you can play anything. Now, Dry Arabia is a map that is very open around the middle. There's a lot of fighting around map controls. You can have some spawns that are pretty good defensively and to camp. But general rule is Dry Arabia is very good for aggression, very good for 2 town centers, and then Fast Castle is also possible, but not necessarily the best map for it. So regarding civs, it's an easy one. You can play anything there, and you can almost play any style as well. You can kind of decide which spawn the opponent has. If he has like a really bad food spawn, you can go more aggressive. If he has pretty campy spawn, you can go more greedy, and so on and so forth. So that's the easiest one because everything is good on it. Let's go over to Ciffside, which is, you know, we put them in the same pool of open maps, open land maps. Ciffside is a bit different than Dry Arabia because of the short rush distance between you and your opponent, which means that aggressive civs are a lot better. So you have civilizations such as English, Mongol can be pretty good on it because the tower rush comes super quick. HRE is really good. OTD if you're going for like men-at-arm rush strategies or something like that. French and JD are quite nice because the knights arrive really quickly. Basically any timing with aggression that you're doing, Ciffside just arrives about 10 to 20 seconds faster depending on the spawns and what you're attacking. So aggro civs are very good here. 2 town center is possible on Ciffside, but if you're playing specifically boom civs, I think it's a lot harder to pull it off. So for example, we almost never see at a high level, we don't see Abbasid on this map because Abbasid takes a little bit of time to get second TC going and everything else. So if you go Abbasid here, the enemy attacks you faster, you might lose a villager or 2, and then it just kind of snowballs. So general rule on the Ciffside, aggro maps or aggro civs are very good in order to basically punish your opponent, but there's some counterplay to it. So if someone is in your league constantly playing like Mongol or English or those maps, you can choose some civ that can counter those civs. Maybe some kind of fast castle rush civs or something like that, but in general aggro is the king on Ciffside, and this map having 1 big woodline and like small ones around it makes it so that you can tower rush your opponent's woodline and kind of play off of that. Let's talk about Gorge, which is another very open map. Now, Ciffside is very infantry based. Dry Arabia, I would say both. And then you have Gorge that is very cavalry based. The reason it's cavalry based is it's basically impossible to wall off Gorge early on because of the way it spawns. You cannot just put a wall across the map because it's going to cost too much. So cavalry civs are very good here. So civs like French, JD, even Templars now. I think Mongol can be decent because whenever you tower rush your opponent on Gorge, because their wood line is always in the back, there's a very good chance you'll be able to tower rush their stone and gold at the same time, or like berries and gold, or depending which civ you're playing against. So I would personally avoid playing infantry civs on Gorge, not because it's impossible, but if you don't care which maps you play and you just want to play maps that are best for your civs, I would say knight civs are very good on this map. But at the same time, again, similar to Ciffside, because French, JD, Delhi are played here, Rus is played here very often, those kinds of civs, you can counterpick them by picking, for example, OTD or HRE. because both of those civs are very good into night civs, and the chapel makes it really nice because you have back woodline, so you can have a safe chapel on the woodline. Fast castle builds are also possible because it is very hard to attack on that map, and if you are playing 2 town center, like with Abbasid or another civ or another infantry civ, it becomes very hard to kind of secure food locations because they're both on the sides. So if you try to wall off, unless you have some crazy good spawn with the woodlines where you can connect easily, the night civs are going to have the upper hand. So very harass oriented, very raiding oriented, and eventually if you do manage to survive all of that, the map kind of splits into half and it becomes a split map scenario. Next one is going to be Highview. Now Highview is redone recently and is actually the first, not one of, but the first map from the old maps that has points of interest. This point of interest basically is a tower. If you ever played StarCraft, a watchtower that once you cap it, it gives you vision. And because there's a lot of stealth forests, cavalry civs are very good on it. Because once you lose your scout as an infantry civ, there's no easy way to remake the scout. And the night civs, obviously they have stables, so they can just remake scouts. There's a lot of stealth forests. It's very hard to move through them if you don't have a scout for vision or have like towers everywhere, which is why Rus, for example, is the best civ on this map even today, because they make more than 3 scouts. And they can just put scouts to patrol, gain a lot of vision, then they go horse archers or knights, so it's a very, very good map for them. But unlike Gorge, Highview is actually okay to do 2 town center on. I would actually say probably the worst playstyle on Highview is just infantry aggression, simply because the moment your scout dies, you have no idea where you're going. Like, you don't know where the villagers are, you don't see anything, you might get caught off guard and stuff like that. But if you're playing 2 town centers, you know, you can slowly build up your economy, slowly build up, you know, your army, and then split the map and kind of play on from there. But if you're trying to be aggressive, unless you're a night civ, you're going to have a hard time. And I think castle rushing civs are okay here too, because once you do a castle rush, you do usually open with knights in castle, and then in that case, you're going to have stable, so you can actually make a scout if you lost one. But generally, it's a very open map. It's a redone Highview, so it's very, very open, very hard to split the map early on. And having those towers on the map or points of interest, basically, if you have the map control with knights or just mobile army, then you're gonna have those 2 towers as well. So you're just gonna have even more vision. So French, JD, Rus, Templars, I would say Mongols is also very good, because if they go trade, it's hard for the opponent to harass traders and stuff like that. You can play civs like Abbasid here, English 2TC, any civ that goes 2TC, but I would probably not recommend playing Byzantine here, for example, because, again, once you lose a scout, you're basically just running in blind through the stealth forest, which is pretty rough time. Next map we're going to talk about is Himeyama. We're just going to cover all the land maps first, and then water maps, and we're going to go new maps. Himeyama is a very open map, and because of the way that food is spawned on this map, food is always pretty much like 90% of the time forward. So it's not about whether you're infantry civ or a cavalry civ, it's whether you can secure the food sources or you will run out of food completely. So the style I would probably not suggest on Himeyama is 2TC. Anything else is very good on Himeyama and very viable. Night civs are viable with a lot of mobility. Fast castle is viable as well, especially if you go for a dock into fishes into fast castle, because it gives you a little bit of extra eco. Or infantry civ playstyles are possible as well, because the distance between your opponent is not actually that long, and because the opponent has to go forward to get the food, he kind of puts himself closer to you, so that makes the infantry civs better. So in general, Himeyama is a pretty aggressive map, but those 3 styles, in my opinion, are equally as good. And the fact that there's small wood lines, it means that if you're going like pure archer comps or something like that, you will run out of wood pretty quick, and then you have to go further away from your map. Let's talk about Lakeside migration as well. So Lakeside is a bit of a unique map. It's a hybrid map. I know a lot of you guys do not play water maps or hybrid maps, but I'll give you a rundown which civs are good here. So we had this map in one of the recent tournaments, and basically the best civs were the civs that could get arrow slits on the dock. So what you want to do on Lakeside, there's one deep water fish. You want to immediately open dock, and you want to get 3-4 fishing ships, and basically when you age up, you add arrow slits, so that if your opponent is trying to retake the water, the arrow slits are going to hold them back for quite a long time, and then it's going to give you that little extra economy. And behind it, the most popular strategy was just castle rushing, and we did this pretty much every game. So the best civs on Lakeside, and this is kind of different compared to these land maps, because on land maps you can kind of play everything, you know, like even if you pick a boom civ on Himeyama, it's not the end of the world. But on water maps, I would say it's a lot more specific and a lot better optimized for certain civs. So on Lakeside, I would play English. Can be very good because you can do fast castle into white tower in the front of your base, and then you're basically like immune to raiding or damage, and your fishing ships are a bit cheaper. This map also turns quite a bit into that fishing into fast castle, and then trying to hold sacred sites and going for a sacred site victory, which is probably what 90% of the games at the top level are. So you kind of want civs that can rush castle, but they can also hold the sacred sites. So for that reason, the best civilizations for that, I would say, are English, Japanese, OTD, HRE, potentially Knights Templar. I haven't played the new civs, but I think Knights Templar, House of Lancaster would be great there too, simply because the way they work. If you go for Lancaster Castle in the front of your base, you're gonna block a lot of what your opponent can do. But in general, avoid civs that are very good in feudal, or if you want to like play multiple town centers, you can. But going for fishing into 2 TCs is not as good against castle rush civs. But if you skip fishing and just go 2 TC, I think your opponent just has an advantage kind of from the get-go. So basically, fishing, fast castle, get the control of the sacred sites, and just try to defend them is the general playstyle. Migration is a full water map with a little bit of a twist. You do start with your own little tiny island, and you do have to go to the middle, but this map is very, very, very water focused. So if you don't want to play on water and you don't like water combat, I suggest you veto it. If you do want to play migration and you do enjoy water combat, civs like English are very good, and House of Lancaster, because of their upgrade, it gives their ships +1 range. Basically, it is the best upgrade on the water you can have. HRE, OTD, Japanese, China, Jushi Legacy, Knights Templar, any civ that has a very good boost on land economy, or that has something good around their fishing or ship upgrades or whatever, those are the civs you want to go for, and it's gonna revolve around quite a bit on that water, because if you manage to shut down fishing from your opponent, their economy will completely plummet, and then you can overtake, even if they're on the middle, you can overtake the middle quite easily after that. So water civs. Now we got Carmel, we got Relic River, and Enlightened Horizon. I think I covered all the other ones. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna quickly host one by one and just show you guys the map, explain the general play style, because those are new, and I think most of the other maps you guys have probably seen or played already. So we'll start with Carmel. It's one of the new maps with the DLC, and this map is very, very, very food heavy, and it's one of the first maps that has the small golds. So what I found on this map is going for 2 town center can be very risky. This looks very interesting with you know, having all this food here. You might be like, ooh, I'm gonna put my second TC here and I'm just gonna get all this food, and it's great. But because your second TC is so far away from your main TC, the opponent can kind of put his army here, make 2 rams, and push your town center, and you're kind of fighting in the open. And because you're fighting in the open, the TC is not helping you, and the enemy, if they're all inning, they should have more units. So this is something you should be very, very careful of. Not to say that 2 TC is impossible here, but it can be a bit of a bait if you're making TC all the way out. And basically all the resources around your TC expire really, really fast. Except, I guess, wood line, you have a bit more wood. But if you're going for gold only 1,600 gold, and after that you're gonna have to go into this one, so you're very, very exposed. So if you're playing any kind of civ that you're like, I'm just gonna sit in my base for 20 minutes, you're gonna have a pretty rough time, because not only you won't be able to access these things, but at the same time the opponent is going to have access to one boar, two boar, a deer pack here, two deer packs here, and two small deer packs. And if you lose the map control, you won't be able to mine gold, which will probably cause you to lose the game if the opponent ages up to castle, or just in general run out of gold completely. So the civs that are good on this map, I think you can play a lot of civs, if not all the civs. I just think you need to kind of change up your style a little bit. So aggression here, I think, is very, very good, because you are, if you force your opponent to fight you and you have gold and then they run out of the first gold, the game is going to be very, very difficult for them. The map is also very open, so any type of cavalry, or knight civs are going to be very, very good. But there's some interesting strats you can go for. If you're playing House of Lancaster, you can potentially drop Lancaster Castle here and that way protect all this. China is very good because of Barbican. So if you open up with a Barbican here, you have unlimited amount of food for yourself. So there's some interesting interactions like that. But in general, aggression here is what people usually go for. And even if the opponent does run out of gold, they can run out of food super, super quickly. And then it's going to be lights out from then on out. So in general, what all that food means, because it's so far away, is that not only it becomes a food battle in this map, which happens on every map, but it also becomes a gold battle. Another thing about Carmel, because there's so much food on the map, way more than the average map, means that you need to transition to farms a lot later. So if you're playing a civ like English that kind of wants to go farms early because the farms are just good, you're not getting the full value of the map. So any civilization that wants to make farms somewhat early, or doesn't mind making farms somewhat early, is not going to benefit from Carmel. But any civ that just does not want to transition to farms for as long as possible is going to be very, very happy. So there you go. Enlightened Horizon is another new map which has also points of interests, and the points of interest are one of them gives you passive resource income, and the other one, once you capture it, you can summon like a man-at-arms type unit, let's say that. So this map is very interesting because we've never had a map that's like this campy. I guess forts maybe, but this one is done, I think, better. So basically this map, you start with this base. It's very easy to wall this off, and then the only way for the opponent to attack you is through here. But this map starts out very campy. I think 2 town center play is very good here. Castle rushing playstyle is very good here because it is very hard for your opponent to punish you for those 2 things. So super aggressive early play is not good, but there's an interesting way this map plays out. So if I'm rushing castle and I want to go knights, right? And my opponent is, let's say, French, and he's just making knights and archers, and he's gathering his units here. And I hit castle, and then it's good for me, right? But then, because this gold is 1.6k, if I run out of gold and he blocks the other one, the game's over. So he can kind of win by just massing units. And even though I did get to castle, which was my goal, if you cannot maintain gold income, then you're gonna be in a lot of trouble. It kind of works like that, where 2TC or Castle Rush is very good because it's so easy to get there, but you also need to figure out a way to break out and, you know, not only get this gold, but also get this deer and get these berries, otherwise you're going to run out of food. So it's a very unique map. Don't think we've had a map like this yet. So I would say if you are playing some kind of aggression, don't look for instant damage. Look to kind of shut down your opponent and keep them just here. And if you keep them here, they're going to lose. But you can also play, like I said, Castle Rush civs. You can play multiple TC civs because it is also very easy to set up second TC somewhere here and then just defend it. Or if you manage to set up second TC here, then you kind of have berries and gold in another woodline. Civs that have defensive landmarks, you know, Rus with Kremlin would be really good here if you pop your Kremlin here, or Barbican, or Lancaster Castle is going to be really good if you pop it right here or here, and then you can make manors around it. Civs like Delhi or Knights Templar that rely on sacred sites can actually be pretty bad or pretty decent depending which matchup you get, because if Delhi is playing against a Civ that's just camping, you're going to be able to capture these 3 sacred sites super easily, and then you can just kind of lock down your opponent here. Now, one of the things that I haven't tried yet, but something that you can try on the ladder, is if you're playing China, let's say I'm red, enemy is purple. If I go for Imperial Academy, I can do a Barbican Rush here and completely block my opponent from accessing anything. So a lot of it revolves around that. So it starts off as very campy, and then the map opens up quite a bit. So after you get to this initial camping phase, then the map just becomes super open, and there's just no easy way to wall all this. So it kind of starts with, like I said, very defensive, but then it transitions to, again, cavalry can pick you off, so you got to be able to defend pretty well. And straight up pushes. I've seen some strategies that people go for like archer, spearman or something, and they just push through the back here with rams, which is also something you can try and do. Is H3 Burger Rush good here? It can be, but if opponent walls off the back side, then you have to go all the way around. The last map is, I can't remember what it's called, Relic River. Now this is also a pretty cool map, pretty unique map, and in my opinion, this is the most balanced and competitive map, because I haven't seen any terrible spawns or unfortunate spawns happening. To me, it seems that every civ is good here, every style is viable, because the map is very macro oriented. But there's one unique thing about this map that you gotta know and pay attention to, and that is that wood lines are further away from your TC than on the other maps. So if you look, my town center is barely touching the first wood. If you look at my opponent, the TC is not even touching, oh, I guess here. So basically, the moment you chop like 3 trees, the opponent can harass your wood line super easily, and your TC will not help you defend it. Now, as to which civs are good here, I would say 2 town center civs are pretty good, because the opponent doesn't really have any fast ways of attacking you. But you should probably place your second town center, you know, next to the wood line, or maybe next to this wood line, because you're gonna have a pretty hard time defending that. If you go second TC, your army is obviously delayed, so you're going to need a way to defend your resources. Or in this case, you could probably put a second TC here. You could put it here and maybe push in the deer, something like that. Castle rushing on this map, I would probably avoid. The reason for that is, even if you do a castle rush, the gold, look how far away it is. I think all the resources are actually pushed away now that I look at it. I think berries are not, but the other ones, look at the stone, look at the gold for me as well. Stone is a bit closer, but gold is pretty far. So if you're doing any type of castle rushing, you're not going to be able to chop wood, first of all, because you'll just be denied. You're not going to be able to get food, because food is very open and very out there. So I would say either aggro or second TC playstyles are probably going to be good, because that way you can either get control of the map or have a second TC and then defend points on the map. After that, this map turns into just controlling golds on the map, which are usually around this area. So having some kind of keep here if you're on Steel side or Cyan side, it's going to be very good, because the keep here defends a lot of your golds and a lot of your stones. Now, another thing about this map, there are these fish, and you can actually go for a dock. So if you're playing a civ that likes to go for docks on hybrid maps like this, you can go for, if you're Japanese or Ayubid or Abbasid even, you can go for a dock here. There's 5 fishes, which is, oh no, there's more than 5 fishes, sorry. There are 6 fishes, which is 3,000 food. So maybe you can play some kind of fast castle off of that, but you're still going to need to defend your wood line somehow, which is going to be the problem. But, you know, you can just take the dock, make some fishing ships, and kind of boost your economy into aggression or into 2TC, whatever. And that's going to be it. I don't know if you guys, this is the first time I'm doing something like this. I I haven't done one of these before. Basically doing a guide for the whole ladder map pool for this whole season, because the season lasts a couple of months, right? So I feel like maybe it's going to be helpful for some people, maybe not. If you did enjoy it, let me know, and I will do more in the next season. So season 10, maybe I'll do another one in season 11 if you guys like it, but that's going to be it. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. Check me out on Twitch. I'm literally live right now, I guarantee it. If you're watching on Twitch, let's keep going.